It was a day like any other and I was just laying in my bed doing nothing until I had the idea I want to remix something. After a long period of time, I want to remix something again. But what could I possibly remix? There were a lot of songs that came to my mind that I could remix, but every song that came to my mind have been remixed before, that much. And I wanted to make something different. So the categories for this remix are a little off. The first is a song that I know since my childhood. The song should be turned into a future house banger. And I wanted to be a meme feature then. And the first song that came into my mind was I Like to Move It by DreamWorks Animations in the movie Madagascar. But how can we make a remix of this already massive banger? Well, how it turned out you will see at the end of this video. So the idea is settled now, but where do I start? First I listened to the original track to get some ideas and find some elements that I can maybe use in the remix. After I listened to it for about an hour, I had some ideas to start with. But one thing is still missing: the melody of this track. To find the melody, I watched a piano video about this track and copied notes from this video and draw them in MIDI. And then I added some chords and the bass line. Very easy so far. So let's continue. I always start with the drop, so let's just add some synths. The first lead melody I created actually is the bass line of the original. Don't ask me why I made it the lead melody, it was just an idea that somehow worked out. After I put in enough layers together, I put it in the same channel and gave this leads a lot of processing. Very important here is the sidechaining. It makes the leads more groovy. And we want that, especially for future house. To support the leads even more, I made some huge chords and made them pretty big. You know? And I also used the piano to support the body and the transient of the chords. After that I just added a pad synth with more layers to give it more thickness and harmonics in the drop. Then we are already at the basses. The basses are just some typical growl bass that you probably have heard before. If you want to know how to make one of these, check out Mario or JSK's sound design tutorials on basses. They are very good. The simple sub bass. Never forget the sub bass. Never, please. It's so important to have a sub bass in your tracks. These are all the synths of the drop, so let's just continue with the drums. They are also not complicated. It's a typical house beat with some claps and in the second part of this drop is an offbeat hi-hat, and overall is this 4-on-the-floor kick pattern. And for even more thickness and fullness in the whole drop, I added an ambient sample and a crowd noise sample. Also 2 downlifters to give the drop more impact and make it more energetic in the beginning. So now we have the drop, let's move on to the intro. Well, the intro is pretty similar to the drop, because I thought King Julian is not that smart, so how about we make it to make this song very standard and not that outstanding like every other Future House remix. Anyway, I basically just removed the lead. The only things I added here are some cymbal loops, a Reese bass and some more impacts. Then on the next bars, the dead mouse plugs being introduced to the track with that filter automation. And oh yeah, there's just another plug with lead melody. Yeah, very creative, bruh. A lot of plugs. And all this concept just keeps going, and the elements are also settled in the build-up. And in the build-up there are just some more snare and percussion sample loops. And there's also only one down and one uplifter for the build-up, which is not that much transient elements, and still the drop is heavy. Somehow I managed. There's also a 4-on-the-floor kick pattern to give the whole drop more punch in some parts. And before the drop there's a pre-drop drum fill. That's why it's called pre-drop, by the way. Yeah. Yeah, and this is basically the whole instrumental. The rest is just trial and error and arranging. But we're not completely done yet. As I mentioned, I wanted something special and a meme in it. And I also wanted vocals. So, what vocals are better than King Julian's vocals for this remix? So I just grabbed the original music video, removed the vocals with vocal remover, and arranged the vocals to the track so they will fit. But now we are finally done. let's listen to this stupid remix.
I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. You like to move it, move it, move it. All girls all over the world. Original King Julian for the case bud. I love how all the girls move their body. And when you move your body, you move it nice and sweet and sassy. Alright? Woman, you're cute and you don't need no makeup. Original cute body makeup on man on your cute. And you don't need no makeup. Original cute body makeup on man. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. I like to move, I like to move. I like. She like to move it, move it. You like to move it. They like to move it, move it. You like to move it, 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 move it. What about we?
Well guys, that's it. Make sure to check out other videos, subscribe.